I'm joined by Congressman Hurd, who, as you mentioned, Scarlett, has a unique perspective on all this, given your time at the CIA. First of all, how troubled are you by the fact that the Office of Personnel Management was hacked in this way, and that so many federal employees now have information out there?
It's disappointing. It's scary. It's how are the attackers going to use this? They can use this to penetrate other systems, and a lot of this could have been dealt with if some of the issues that OPM has had and been identified by the IG, has been identified by GAO, if they were fixed, years before.
There were some questions today, or at least certainly the head of OPM was making the case. Listen, some of this has to do with budget. We haven't had the resources necessarily to build the sort of cybersecurity infrastructure that we need.
Now, look, it's always the case, especially when you have legacy systems, right? But when you implement two-factor authentication immediately after a hack, that means you already had the ability you had the money to do that. You just hadn't done it, right? And so that's one of the issues that's most frustrating with me. We passed the Congress last year passed a bill called FITARA to empower CIOs to protect their networks better. One of the things I'm going to be doing on my subcommittee is bringing these agencies in and saying, how are you improving? How are you moving forward in order to make sure we're protecting everyone's data?
What's your sense right now about who's responsible for all this? Can you get into with us what you know right now about whether or not this was state-sponsored, whether this was China?
So I think our intelligence agencies are looking to do attribution, right? That's trying to figure out who it is. And when you look at the signatures of this attack, could it possibly be state sponsors like China? Yes. Could it be a Russian organized crime? Yes. But what we need to be thinking about is the tactics that are being used and what is the appropriate countermeasures, because that often leads to people stopping doing it if they know that they're going to get a countermeasure or counter response.
Again, you spent nearly a decade in the CIA, so you do get this better than most people up here on Capitol Hill. What about the fact that they were going after personnel records, whoever this was behind this, and not, for example, American secrets?
Right. So you always got to look at how is that information going to be used? Okay. Some people may be able to sell that, right, on the black market. But if it was a state sponsor like China, how are they going to use that data to maybe target? You learn information about someone's history. When they're traveling overseas, you can use that to target them. Are they going to use it for blackmail? Is there information that they need that can give them access to other systems? And so there's a number of ways that this information can be used in order to do the next attack and the next attack.
Yeah. I know that Chairman Chaffetz today at the committee calling for the head of OPM to go, that this was such an egregious fiasco, if you will, that this got out there. Do you share that view?
I do. This is one of those things when you have vulnerabilities in your network, right, and you do nothing to improve those or to fix those vulnerabilities, that's unacceptable. And this is one of those issues where with so many people, so many records being touched and stolen, and so many people being touched by this, that definitely somebody's head needs to roll. Someone needs to take responsibility for this action and show the rest of the agencies, the rest of the CAOs, that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated, to ensure that they're doing the right things to protect our networks.
You're convinced this was preventable?
This could have been, there's a lot of steps that would have made this a lot harder, right, than what it was now. The fact that you're not using best practices is a sign that, that they may have looked for other targets.
Yeah. Right now, Congress is still going through the debate over cybersecurity and, again, enhancing cooperation between the federal government and the private sector. That's been controversial. To what extent do you think the kind of legislation that the House has been considering, the Senate's been considering, that's going to make any difference in things like this?
So there's a couple areas, and this is where I hope my colleagues in the Senate, pass the cyber legislation that the House already passed. We had a Homeland Security bill, a House Intel bill. And what this is going to ensure that agencies share information even more amongst themselves, right? So, this indicator of compromise may have been found somewhere else, and it could have been shared. I don't know the answer to that. So those cyber bills would have done a great job protecting that. Einstein 3 would also have been even more helpful in preventing these.